right. Now, having heard all your points of view, now let me repeat the two questions. The first question arose, we gave ourselves, was desire is a plan or a scheme entertained by the intellect. Ramji asked to that, if desire is a plan by the intellect, does it suggest that it's a weak intellect? That's all Ramji asked. Okay. Now, firstly, it does not suggest a weak intellect.
Okay.
All right. So that should put the initial concern to rest, that the definition doesn't suggest a weak intellect. So the definition of a desire is a plan or a scheme by the intellect. That is intact. That is perfect. Now let's justify, how do we say it's a plan by the intellect? So come back to the chronology of action. The origin of any action, if you go backwards, the first is the vasana. Now, where does a vasana arise from? A vasana arises only when there is a void or there is a sense of incompleteness. When there is a void or a sense of incompleteness or imperfection, a vasana arises. That's the first step, point one. When from this comes a thought, and the thought first manifests in the intellect. When those thoughts gain a momentum, it becomes a desire, they manifest in the mind. That's the third step. And the fourth step is when those desires fructify into action, they express at the physical level, seeking an experience in a particular environment. So I repeat, the vasana manifests as thought, thought as desire, desire as action. Now, vasana arises because of a sense of a void or an incompleteness or imperfection. And that manifests first as a thought in the intellect, desire in the mind, and action at the physical level. Are you okay with this so far?
Yes, sir.
Now, when, let's say, I give 4 examples, simple examples to convey this. Let's say I am experiencing a sense of hunger. Now, where does a sense of hunger come in? Because I feel a sense of emptiness within. I haven't had a meal. I'm hungry. So my intellect recognizes the void and generates thoughts towards a particular object which will fill the void, isn't it? When we say desire is a plan by the intellect, for what? To fill the void within.
Yep.
You get it? So the intellect with its capacity chooses that particular object which can satisfy the void within. So when there is hunger, it goes and eats particular food. Now, what kind of food it eats depends on the vasanas you have. You have a vasana for Mexican food or South Indian food or Italian food, that is your particular desire. But the fact that it goes for food, that is the decision by the intellect. The intellect tells you to go and have that because the void, it feels, it knows that that will fill the void within. All right. Now, second example, I'm feeling very thirsty. My throat is dry. You go and have a glass of water or a juice. That will fill the void of
Thirst.
Thirst. Hunger will not fill, this thirst will not fill your hunger. Hunger will not quench your thirst. So there's a specific direction given by the intellect where the mind pursues it and fulfills it. Third example is, let's say you are stuck in a cabin and you're feeling very claustrophobic, very breathless, you feel very stuffy. Neither food nor water can satisfy the discomfort you feel because of claustrophobia. You say, no, I think I need to get some fresh air. So you walk out of your cabin, you go out into the open area to breathe some fresh air. So there is what guides you into that action experience. It's the intellect. It experiences a distinct void and incompleteness, and it entertains a thought and expresses in the mind as a desire, and you satisfy it. All right. The fourth example is, let's say you're feeling a sense of loneliness. You feel very lonely. When you think, what do you need? I need a companion. So you call someone and say, hey, I'm feeling very bored. Can we go out for a movie? Can we go out for a meal? Now, why do you go and seek a meal? Food can't satisfy your loneliness. Thirst can't satisfy your loneliness. Just by being yourself in the park will not satisfy the feeling of loneliness. You need a companion. Now, what I'm taking these four innocuous examples is the intellect recognizes a specific avenue to satisfy the void, the specific void. Therefore, we say a desire is a plan or a scheme entertained by the intellect. In a familiar terms, in other familiar equation, we said desire is nothing but thoughts going from you to a particular object or a being. If I have a desire if my thoughts are going towards mango, I would say I have a desire for mango. That's a very simple definition, but we are giving the very origin how it all starts. So far, so good, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now comes to the element. How do we justify that it is not a weak intellect? See, intellect and wisdom are often used in synonymous terms. Am I right? To the extent you have wisdom, to that extent you have the strength of the intellect. They are both synonymous. Now, what wisdom does, let's say if I have acquired 60% wisdom, now I'm going back to the initial thought I said of the chronology: vasana, thought, desire, action. Vasana is synonymous to incompleteness. Am I right, Ramji?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Wisdom is synonymous to completeness or paripurna. So when you have acquired a wisdom, 60% wisdom, there is 60% paripurnata in me, a fullness in me. So to the extent there is that paripurna, that feeling of fullness, there is no thought, nor is there a desire. To that extent, your actions are more introverted. I'm just borrowing the term introverted here. It's not in the context.
Yeah.
So that's a point two. Now the third point is, if there is X number, let's say if I have, third point is in the chronology of vasana, thought, desire, action, mind is subtler than the body. Am I right? Intellect is subtler than the mind and the body. Vasana is subtler than the intellect, mind, and the body. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Now I ask you, what is subtler than the vasana? It is the wisdom.
Yeah.
So it is the wisdom that is subtler than the vasana. Vasana is ignorance, and synonymously in other contexts we say it is ignorance of the truth that creates vasanas. Am I right?
Yeah.
So vasana is ignorance. Now what dispels the ignorance is the wisdom. So
Correct.
this is a hierarchy. Remember this. Okay. Now take the wisdom out of the equation, sir. Now let's say it is the intellect. Is it a product of vasana?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Perfect. Intellect. Everything's a product of vasana. It's like vasana is the forefather, and he is the source from where the entire lineage of the entire family tree has come from. He is the forefather. He is the very origin. So intellect is the product. Vasana is the cause. Now, if we establish that intellect is the product and vasana is the cause, intellect can never ever control the emanating of the vasanas, which is producing thoughts. Can it?
Yeah.
You cannot counter it, can you?
No.
But what gives you the power to eradicate vasanas? What is it in a human that gives the capacity to challenge a vasana?
Wisdom. No.
It is called purushartha. Purushartha is the capacity to put in that independence, the capacity to put in self-effort. So purushartha is that which is operating through the intellect. And it is that capacity, or purushartha is known as free will or the freedom. You have the freedom to go with it. You have the freedom to go against it. So the purushartha functioning through the intellect can challenge a thought. Like G.B. said, it has the discriminatory power, etc. He said. So when a thought comes into in the intellect first, you can use your free will to checkmate it and say, what nonsense are you saying? I will dismiss you. You nip the thought in the very bud. But if you entertain the thought, if the intellect entertains the thought, that thought becomes a desire in the mind. And thereafter, you have lost control because you have allowed the thought to brood. You have fed the thought, and thereafter it has become strong and healthy. You have no capacity to control it. So what actually helps you to control the thought and the desire is the wisdom through the intellect. And the wisdom you gather functions through the intellect. And what gives the capacity to intellect to challenge the vasana is your purushartha. Otherwise, we are just slave of vasana, thought, desire, action. Now, lastly, why do we say that it is a plan or scheme by the intellect? Why is it not the mind? It is because the mind has no, somebody said it is chanchala. I think it's you yourself said that in a question. Mind is directionless. So the mind will not have a direction to fill the void. So it's the intellect that recognizes the void and generates thoughts. It is the intellect that generates thoughts by recognizing the void. But when you get wisdom, it knocks off the void itself. So there are no thoughts. You get it? You're getting to the very root. You're going to the very root and removing the very void itself. So when the void itself is removed and you feel paripurna, there is no generation of thoughts, and the wisdom gushes through with the clarity of the intellect. You're able to control the mind. So it doesn't presuppose a weak intellect or a strong intellect. It just, when you say intellect, schemes and plans, is just an expression of your vasana at the thought level in the intellect first. That's all it means.
Okay. So I was actually influenced by two things. Of course, in verse 15, you said perpetual foe of your own wisdom and intellect is your desire.
I'm sorry, can you come again? In verse 15?
Perpetual foe of your own wisdom and intellect is your desire. When
Right.
desires are met or unmet, a series of
Hmm.
emotions overtake you.
Perfect.
Desires, mind, and emotions that cloud intellectual clarity.
Correct.
Right. Uh, so all these things made me think that I mean, this hierarchy of vasana above intellect is something I didn't realize. I mean, probably that's how it, because vasana is ignorance, and then from there the desires come. So this part I think I didn't pick up earlier. So now that hierarchy has become more clearer here. And we also discussed many times that the way to strengthen intellect, because that is where it helps you in your spiritual journey, was the manana and that early morning thing that you suggested, that is a way to strengthen intellect, right?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So all that made me think that intellect is the core. I mean, it is the junction box, which is actually processing all this and then taking the decisions. But I never
But
thought that it actually generates the desires. So that's where actually I was mistaken.
what generates the desires?
Intellect.
Intellect doesn't generate. Sir,
But it is
be
getting from
very
vasanas. Yeah.
see, the intellect by itself doesn't generate. The thoughts appear in the vasana level because of the void. Please know that's the connection, a clear connection we're
Yeah.
making. So
Correct.
void is synonymous to the
Vasanas.
vasana, which expresses as thought in the intellect.
Correct.
Now, it as long as you have vasanas, it will express as thought. Now, what happens to your wisdom to checkmate the thought? You have the freedom, no?
Right.
So,
right.
as a human, we have the free will. So, with the freedom, you can choose to checkmate a thought and say, no, I dismiss it, or yes, I like it, I entertain it. Now, since you have entertained your thoughts throughout, they have become desires and robust desires. If only we had the capacity to checkmate these thoughts, you would have negated and removed the vasanas even before they fructify. So it all happening it's happening at the thought level. It's all happening at the intellect level. So I might take the route of permitting the thought or non-permitting the thought. The non-permittance of thought comes through purushartha and wisdom. Permittance of thought comes through vasana
Yeah.
You just you pass through that and then you give it a license. Chalo yaar, go ahead. It's like a security guard is allowing the thief to come through. He also used the main gate, disguise. The security guard doesn't realize it. Chalo, you're most welcome, sir. He salutes you. What happens? That fellow comes and steals and robs and he goes out.
Yeah.
The job of the intellect is to it's a main gate. It's all the traffic is passing through that.
Okay.
I hope all of you I get the. It's like me sitting remotely and doing an open heart surgery. The doctors nowadays, they will do through, what do you call this? What's the process nowadays? Laser.
Robotics.
Robotics. So he is not in the hospital. He's somewhere else, and he's sitting in with the thing. And the Madhuri, I'm trying to do the conveying this subtle concept is not easy. I don't know how much I've conveyed. Ideally, I would like to take the board and put it and clearly specify it. And it's a different means. But
I think you have closed it and stitched it up. So that is
okay. That's fine. That's fine. But Sitaramji is again opening it up now, so he'll open it up again. Right, sir. Thank you, Ramji.
I must confess I'm confused.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I must confess I'm confused. As I understand from what has just been said, the intellect is born out of vasanas. So the intellect cannot by itself control the vasanas. Now the desires arise because of the void which is felt, and then the direction it takes is on the basis of the vasanas. Now the controlling of the actions to either eradicate the desires or to succumb to it comes from a purushartha or synonymous wisdom. Now, in all this equation, where is the mind? So the mind is not picturing in this thing at all.
Never mind, sir. Never mind. It's okay. We'll
Okay.
leave it for a while. No, don't take it seriously. I'm just joking. Why did you mute yourself? So now see, sir, the desires are expressions of your thought.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So the desires are located in the mind. A thought manifests in the intellect. Vasana is above it. What is the difficulty in getting that thought process? So you understand Vasana is the root at the top.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then comes the thought, a single thought, which is in the intellect. Then comes a series of thoughts, which is a desire in the mind. Then comes the action at the body. This is the chronology. This is the order of manifestation.
So we are saying the desire is arising in the intellect. We are also saying the desire is arising in the mind.
No, desire is not arising. Desire is a further fructification of a single thought.
Yeah, that's true. So when the desire comes, then is it
Sir,
arising in the intellect or is it arising in the mind?
it is arising. It doesn't take the form of a desire in the intellect. It just appears as a
Thought.
thought in the intellect.
Hmm.
So that one thought, sir, somebody puts an idea in you. You never had an idea. Let's say somebody planted an idea of a bicycle in you. Example. You started entertaining the thought of bicycle. You started searching. You started Googling. You explored about it. You have fed that thought. You never had that idea of cycling. You entertained that thought of cycling. That thought for cycling became a desire for cycling. Now you have bought a cycling. You're a cyclist. It was just a thought. It could have come from within or it's planted. That's irrespective. That's not the context of the thing, but it is manifested as thought. But if you say, no, I am not interested in cycling, at the very beginning, if with your existing intellect, okay, the thought came in the intellect. Let's say it's come from a vasana. The vasana manifests as a thought in the intellect. At the very initial stage itself, you dismiss that thought. You say, I'm not interested in cycling. Would there be a desire for cycling 1 month, 3 weeks down the road? That's all we're saying. Today, if you have desires, is because you have given a license to the thoughts which had manifested in the mind from the vasana. It's coming from the vasana, no doubt, but that doesn't mean you have a freedom to do what you want. You can eradicate all your vasanas and attain God realization. And this is how it happens. Or you can feed them, entertain them, and accumulate more desires and vasanas. This is the two possibilities that's happening. And all is happening at the intellectual level. So with this knowledge, with the wisdom you acquire through manana, what happens? It gives you the capacity to checkmate or challenge any thought. Any thought, however strong a vasana you have, if you have the wisdom, you can checkmate it, you can uproot it, you can get rid of it. You get it?
Okay. So the thought is arising in the intellect. And
Yes.
thereafter the desires come, which is all possibly the mind.
The desires play in the mind.
The desires, and then the intellect through the Purushartha or wisdom decides what action to be taken.
You can do that, or you can even intervene much earlier.
At the thought level itself.
Thought level. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
See, sir, it is influential. You have better control in the very beginning. As it gathers momentum, you have less control.
Yeah, that's true.
So I take a simple example we have often taken. Let's say you are in a flight of stairs. Let's say it's 100 steps down. And then in the very top step, you have a ping pong ball, you have a ball which really bounces, it just slips from your hand. And if your reflexes are sharp, you will pick it up in the very first bounce. Let's say you missed it in the first step. And the fact that it bounces, it gets, that's next is the third step. If you're athletic, you'll take that quick step forward and you'll clinch in the first step. If the second step, if you're missed in the second opportunity, the next is the 10th step, 40th step, and it's gone. Now I ask you, where you think it is safe to control the thought? At the thought level, at the desire level, at anger level, at greed level, at delusion level?
Obviously, the first level, at the thought level.
Gayatrima, do we have the chapter 2 ladder of fall chart anywhere with us? Search Panungo.
Okay, Guruji. I'll see.
Yes, ma'am. The ladder, chapter 2, 62 and 63, that verse. So somebody, I think GBKG said, mentioned of the various emotions, if I'm not wrong. So if the emotions come in, then you can't control the emotions. When you're angry, you can't say, calm down. You are, I mean, you're deluded. And what's the last stage of delusion? Buddhi nashat pranashyati. No intellect, destruction. So the safest stage in the entire ladder is to address a thought when it manifests at the thought at the intellect, in the intellect itself. If it manifests in the mind, then you already allowed it to go beyond the intellect. It's better to catch the thief at the security level, not in the homes. He's already entered the properties of the people. It's too late. You should have caught him at the very security, the very entrance. You arrest it. And that liberty we have, and what gives that liberty is the Purushartha. You are just not a slave of your vasanas, my dear. You have the Purushartha, and this is how it functions. And if you bring all these elements and examine it, it fits in perfectly. It's amazing how it all works. It's working. It's been working. How oblivious we have been, it's been working. All right, sir.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, GBKG.
There is a little confusion about the mind when people are talking about the mind, the intellect and the thought. The Manjit, Jagatjit, that is the slogan, why it has come, because the intellect only is a discriminative power. The mind, whether it take it as a positive or negative, it depends upon kama, krodha, moha, lobha. These things, the mind, if you control the mind, means the mind is the ultimate. It has to take this side or that side. It depends upon vasanas. That's why the Manjit, Jagatjit has come. The man is the one which we have to have, that kama, krodha, moha, lobha. That is ultimate. Mind has got a tremendous role. There, the place where, the intellect is nothing but is a discriminative power. Is a good or bad. Whether you take good, whether you take bad, is all depends upon your vasanas, your particular how you control your kama, krodha, moha, lobha. That's the mind has got a major role.
Right, sir.
So,
right, sir. Thank you.
there
Right.
you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before I take up Hariji, yes, Gayatri, please share that. We don't have the ladder clearly, isn't it? Gayatri?
I don't have that. Only the verses are there with me, Guruji.
Okay. Okay. Now, this is the famous ladder of fall, what we talk about, so the ladder starts with a man musing on objects, he says. So it starts, when you muse, you pick up a thought, and the thought becomes an attachment. Attachment becomes desire, and desire becomes anger. So in the 62nd verse, he says 4 things. First is a thought. From thought becomes attachment. Attachments become desire. Desire becomes anger. Next, when anger mounts, there is delusion. From delusion comes loss of memory. From loss of memory, there's a loss of intellect, and loss of intellect leads you to destruction. So 8-fold step of the ladder of fall of a human being. So the point I was making earlier is, in this ladder, you are safest perhaps at the very top of the ladder. It's far easier to manage your thoughts than handling your desires, handling the emotions and the delusion and the loss of memory. That's too difficult to salvage yourself and be secure. So you're vulnerable, and therefore it leads to total destruction thereafter. All right, so that's the reference. You can fall back on 62nd and 63rd verse of chapter 2. All right, thank you, Ma. I think there are a couple of questions here. Hariji, what is it, sir, please?
Guruji, I have a fundamental question. Are mind and intellect are separate equipment, or is it only one equipment? The emotional aspect of it is mind, and the discriminative aspect is intellect.
They are
Or
one
mind.
and the same. It is just the nature of thoughts make it the mind. The nature of thoughts make it the intellect. So when these thoughts become irrational, impulsive by nature, it becomes the mind. When it becomes rational, discriminative, and logical, it becomes the intellect. No? So therefore, we have a fair control of rationalizing at the very thought level. But the moment that rationality lost, then you keep feeding, it becomes desire, emotions, and leading to destruction. Okay.
Fundamentally, it is only one equipment.
There's only
That is mind.
No. Fundamentally, it's only thoughts. It's not mind.
Okay.
Fundamentally, it's thoughts. Those thoughts, when it's rational, it's intellect. When it's irrational, it's the mind.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Venkatramji.
Yeah, namaskar, Guruji.
Namaskar, sir.
No, this is the same question which actually Tinkima has also posted. My question was, you were talking about vasanas, and in an earlier class, if I remember right, we said the vasanas are always going to be there with us every time. So if that is the inherent nature, here, while I was listening to this discussion, somewhere it appeared that probably, vasanas are something which, again, they are not inherent, but we are kind of in between acquiring them or something like that. So there was some clarification which I wanted on this vasanas, referring to one of the earlier classes where we said they are going to be there always with us, and then that is how it is carried.
No, vasanas are the very reason for our existence.
So there is
Vasana
nothing.
is the
Okay.
you as long as you are alive, you have vasana. You are alive because of your vasanas. A person is born because of his vasanas, and one moment those bundle of vasanas are exhausted, then that's when I and you are extinct. We are no longer here. We die. So
Okay.
birth is because of vasana. Death is because of vasana.
Okay. Okay.
So somebody doesn't die because of age. Somebody doesn't die because of an accident. Somebody doesn't die because of disease. Somebody dies because of their vasanas are exhausted. So it's the subtle that controls the gross.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So in terms of vasanas, give you the environment.
Okay.
Go back to
Okay.
the chronology: vasana, thought, desire, action.
Desire.
Right?
Yes.
So you have a vasana to learn the philosophy, the Gita. You are here. So this
Okay.
environment is because the vasana is there in you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have, but that doesn't mean. So then I ask you this fundamental question: is there is a distinct difference in the varied nature of animal kingdom? A dog is very faithful and loving. A hyena or a fox is cunning. What makes a dog loving and faithful? What is it that makes a hyena or a fox cunning?
Yeah, I mean, that is their inherent probably nature.
Correct.
But here I have a question.
Hmm.
Because we can't speak to dogs and the foxes, probably human beings also have all of that. I might be a dog sometimes, I might be, but we are trying to work on it and trying to become good. Because while that is there in an inner nature, there, unfortunately, I don't think they have that opportunity to, be better. Here, as human beings, we have all of that in us, but we are trying to become better. Is that right? That interpretation?
Absolutely. So animals also have different vasanas, which is their nature. They are helpless.
They are helpless.
But what an animal leads, what is known as a beaten path. An animal cannot put in self-effort.
Exactly.
An animal cannot tamper with its vasanas.
We can.
A human being can not only tamper, a human being can knock off all his vasanas and attain godhood.
Okay. Got
That makes us different from any other animal, any other living being.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Right, sir. Right.
Yeah.
So the essential element is Purushartha. Right,
Okay.
sir. Right. Thank you. That will get me to the question which Setuji wanted to ask. Setuji. Hariom, sir.
I just wanted to know a little more about Purushartha, where it is located, how it can be strengthened, how it functions. Because now we have got a lot about intellect and all that, but ultimately Purushartha can overpower all this. So we have that free will, but like wisdom, can we strengthen it? Can we strengthen like the intellect? Can we? It is there, but how to make it dominate?
How to give it the expression it needs. Is that what you're asking? How do you give it the expression so that we can see its influence? All right. Now, okay. In fact, Purushartha is something which is the same in every human being. Purushartha literally means a capacity. It's the same capacity. It is the fact that you're born as a human, you have this Purushartha, and every human has this free will, which an animal doesn't have. So there's nothing you and I need to do, can do to Purushartha. It's just like comparing it to conscience. Every human being also has a conscience. Conscience is the same. You can't do anything to conscience. It's the same all throughout your life. It's the same in every human being. So you can't tamper with it. You can't do anything with it. But what we must understand is the Purushartha expresses through the intellect. So the free will, that freedom of choice, that freedom to make a choice expresses through the actual choice you're making. I repeat, Purushartha, which is the free will or the freedom of choice, expresses through the actual choice you make. And what is it that makes a choice in a human? The intellect. So what we should do is we must strengthen the equipment, the intellect. Once the equipment is strong, the freedom of choice you have expresses very clearly. Now, Ramji, I ask you, this choice is over what?
Choice over various options you have, various thoughts you get. Which one to pursue?
Thought. No, that is one thing. But choice of, if I give you one vasana, what is the choice with reference to that vasana?
Which vasana, Guruji? Sorry, I didn't pick up that vasana.
Right. No. I'm just going back to the last statement I said.
Correct.
Purushartha is the
same for everybody. It is a free will, which actually dictates or which actually guides the intellect on what is the choice to make.
So we said Purushartha is the capacity it gives you to make that free will, which expresses through the actual choice one makes. Am I right?
Correct. Yeah.
This is a sentence I made, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now my question is that free will to make that actual choice. Now the choice is of what? Over what choice? Choice of what is the question?
Choice of the action or choice of the of the thought, in the sense that because the vasana has generated a void, so how to fill that void is the choice you are making. That is what intellect is doing, right? And
choice is two. What are the two things there?
You can go with what the vasana is telling you, or you can control it and then go to a higher level. That is
correct. So the choice is either you go along with the vasana and fulfill it, or go against the vasana and say, no, I want to pick up a higher vasana. Sitaramji said, I will go against it and I will uproot it. As Vasantama rightly said, you either feed the vasana or uproot the vasana. Shivaji beautifully saying, Neti, not this, not this. Idilla, idivanda, and not this. I want to seek the higher. So that capacity to say, I am not the lower, I am the higher, to keep negating the lower and to assert the higher is the pinnacle of self-effort. It's the same Purushartha is functioning. You have to control an extra laddu or a gulab jamun on the dining table. That also you have to apply Purushartha. You get it. Everything you're making a choice to yes or no. The same intellect is used at the highest level to negate the world and seek the truth.
What earlier I thought the intellect was doing, now it is clarified that it is actually the Purushartha which is doing that. In the sense that
no. You go back to the old understanding only. It is the intellect that is doing, but what gives the freedom to the intellect is Purushartha.
Yeah, right.
Sir, to what extent can you do? Sir, if the Purushartha is the same in you, if the Purushartha is the same in me, Purushartha is the same everybody, then what is the difference in between in both of us, for example? What's the difference?
Vasanas.
Ayyo. When we're talking of Purushartha and the intellect, why are you talking of vasanas? When the Purushartha is the common factor,
right, sir.
Purushartha is operating through the intellect to make the right choices. What differentiates you and me? Isn't it the intellect?
Yeah, it is intellect. Yeah.
You have a strong intellect, I have a weak intellect. That's all. That's a difference. So if I embark on the journey of strengthening my intellect, the Purushartha which is there from birth. You don't have to do anything to it. The moment you're born as a human, you've got that freedom. Means you can do what you want with your vasanas. You acquire wisdom and destroy your vasanas, or foolishly entertain your vasanas and live a life of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. You keep going again and again in the cycle of birth and death. That choice we all have, isn't it? Therefore, the entire process of we are dabbling with this knowledge. Why are we trying to dabble with these subtle ideas? Is this will become the tool to strengthen the intellect. So when the intellect becomes strong, the capacity to influence the mind becomes
More.
vivid and more influential. But if the equipment is weak, sir, I am born with a muscle. The fact, when you hold a little child, 1 day child or 1 week child in your arms, what is a child? Isn't the child born with muscle?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the miracle of a mother, gives life to which no doctor, no science can do. All artificial intelligence can build robot, but can't give life. But the mother gives birth to a child. The child is born with a muscle. But what the child does, as the child is growing, the muscle is becoming stronger. That's all is happening. Similarly, every human being is born with an intellect from very birth. But are we strengthening it along the course of our life? Is a big question. So this education system or the knowledge process is only giving you intelligence. Remember, other day we were talking in one of the classes. There's an intelligence, but there is no intellect.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
So Guruji, what is intellect called in Sanskrit?
Buddhi.
Buddhi. Okay. And what is wisdom called?
Vijnanam.
Vijnana. Okay.
Jnanam is knowledge. Vijnanam is the wisdom, which is synonymous to the buddhi. It expresses. So the Vijnanam you have expresses through the buddhi.
Yeah. Okay.
Ramji, I want to give you a little task. I know you have many jobs in hand, but this one I would like to ask you.
Yeah.
No, one job I want to give you. If you,
Sure.
I don't know if I know you're good at it, but I don't know if you're able to create time. Can you create a map of all these elements we spoke today?
Okay.
You share it with me. That
Yeah,
will
yeah,
become
I'll share it.
an exercise for your own study. At the same time, if we have a map diagram of all the elements, the vasanas, thoughts, desires, actions, what is a vasana? We have said it is the void. We have spoken about Purushartha. Where is the intellect?
Yeah.
What is the mind? All these elements, and where does wisdom come in? Which is subtle, which is gross? If we can capture all this in a diagram.
Okay.
So if we can have it at a glance, you can fall back on it whenever you need to.
Sure. And Guruji, where do I put conscience in this? Conscience.
Conscience is, why do you need to put it here?
No, I'm
Because
just asking.
you're drawing,
does
huh?
it figure? No, I thought if we are making a comprehensive chart, we can also show where conscience plays a role.
See,
If it is
intellect-
irrelevant, please leave it. No problem.
See, conscience is independent of your. In fact, you can say, as Hariji had mentioned, intellect gross and subtle intellect, and conscience is an aspect of a subtle intellect. It doesn't fall in the purview of the context of discussion.
Oh,
I
okay.
just brought in the concept of conscience to mention that conscience and Purushartha are same, and they can't be tampered with, so they remain equal. When I was telling Setuji, but otherwise that is
equal for all the people. You said
equal.
They are the same for everybody. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. But I don't think that finds a place in this chart. It would
That's
not
okay.
be in this chart.
Okay.
Chart.
Okay.
Okay. Right.
Thank you.
Please do that as soon as you can, Ji, so it remains fresh and everybody can capture it at your earliest convenience. Okay. Ideally tomorrow morning, 4 o'clock. Okay. Then he will say, bye-bye, sir. Hari Om. Thank you very much. He will say. No, Shama. No, I'm sure he will. Yes, Murli Ji. We will have to soon wind up.
Yeah, just
Right.
one small query in this. Once
Yes, sir.
I decide the free will, I have to go to a particular place within 4 hours from now. I have two options. I can go by train, which will take about 9 hours. And if I go by flight, I can go by 3 hours. Then I use free will and catch the flight. And once after catching the flight, something goes wrong. And I landed into some mishap or something. So I exercise my free will correctly based on the available data and use my judgment correctly. And I exercise the free will, yes, given this time, this is the only option I have, and I have taken the flight. After using the free will, whether I will properly land there or not, is it not the destiny plays there? That's my
Destiny plays role, yes.
destiny plays.
Whether-
So
unless
whatever-
you are the pilot.
unless I am the pilot. So whatever free will decision we take not necessarily guarantees us in a situation where uncertainties are there, where the result and outcome is uncertain.
Sir, I give another example, sir.
Yeah.
There are two brothers. Both leave work at the factory end of the evening, 7 o'clock.
Right.
One fellow goes to a temple.
Right.
Other fellow goes to a club
Right.
to meet his friends.
Right.
Fellow who gets drunk
Right.
and he doesn't believe in a driver. He drives himself. So he, in that intoxicated state, he drove back, he reached home safely. But the fellow who went to the temple, did all his prayer and did all the good work there, is come on his way back, he had an accident.
Right.
Now, what is it got to do with, therefore we can't conclude it is safer to drive with intoxication and therefore it is not safe to drive with being sober.
Right.
Adalla, it is not whether I reach safely a destination. It depends not on free will. It depends on what destiny, what karma I have done.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
So
what I'm coming to. There's a limitation in the free will.
no. There is no limitation in the free will. Free will gives you limitless options, including the option of getting realization. But whether you deserve it or not, that requires, isn't it? Sir,
Right.
let's say you have done a business and you have terrible loss and you owe the bank 10 lakhs. Does that limit your capacity to earn any future money in life? You had a business failure, you owe the bank 10 lakhs. Does that limit your capacity to earn any money in the future?
No, it doesn't limit.
That's all. Is it anything limiting you to become the richest man in the country, in the world?
No.
Limitless, isn't it?
Limitless.
Just because I have 10 lakhs loan to the bank doesn't mean my capacity to earn is any less. I can earn anything in my life. Just because, that's why in the Gita it says, even the worst of sinners can realize the self, he says. Just because you're a sinner doesn't mean you can't attain moksha. What gives you the capacity is this Purushartha. So Purushartha does not limit you. Purushartha gives you the freedom of the choice of action.
Right.
But the
But doesn't
fruits of
guarantee
action,
guarantee the result.
that isn't guaranteed because the fruit of action is based on your prarabdha. Prarabdha is your past.
Right.
What have you done so far?
Right. Okay,
So
sir.
you have to take your past also into account for the fruit, isn't it? But Purushartha is complete free will.
Free will.
All right, sir.
Hari Om. Thanks.
Hari Om, Hari Om. So Sanjay, I think it is right to say that you have never been as confused as you have been in today's class.
That's perfectly right. It's like a jigsaw puzzle coming together. but it really it make my level of understanding now is this pattern of the void expresses the thought, expresses a desire, and it's catching that earlier on in that chain before it crystallizes down that chain. And that's where we need that sharpening of the intellect.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm sitting here just trying to reflect that in normal life, and it works every time. Because the minute that it crystallizes into a desire, that's it. The body will call on me to fulfill that. But if I catch it earlier on through the intellect and say, no, this is taking me away from my objective of being a conscious being, then I can delete it. It's.
You can forget the rest and keep doing this, Sanjay. The rest of it is all unnecessary dialogue.
Yeah,
We wasted,
absolutely.
we wasted 1.5 hours talking so many things. You forget everything and just keep following this meticulously. You will attain moksha faster than all of us.
Yeah, it's true. It feels like this is what all the Upanishads do. They start with that opening message saying, this is how you do it. But then it's like, but we know that this is difficult. So. But actually, the answer's on page 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Go back to page 1. So this is the page 1 of the whole conversation today. All right. Perfect. I'm glad you could follow. Thanks, Sanjay. Great. Okay. We'll come back. And Ramji, please do send, which will help everybody. Right, sir? Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.